Hey, Pawnee. So you asked a really great question, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these answer choices one by one to try to figure out by process of elimination what the answer is here. And first, just some background. So you're asking about the advantages of in-gel electrophoresis has compared to gel-free approaches. Well, historically, gel electrophoresis especially has been what we've been using to analyze proteins uh, for a very long time. So a lot of these gel-free approaches have come about as a specific response to some of the drawbacks that gels can have. Not That's not to say that gel electrophoresis is not a powerful technique, because it is. As Just keep that in mind when we're going over these answers. So, A, it allows the type of protein modification to be identified. So, not really. What you see is that when you're looking at a gel, right? If you look at the gel, all you're seeing is just a little glowing line where the protein ended up. So you can then use the mass to go back and figure out, well, what kind of protein is it? What kind of changes have potentially been made? But the type of modification, maybe you're not necessarily going to be able to figure out from just the two-dimensional gel. B, it is more sensitive. Well, no, because that was one of these things that the gel-free approaches were trying to address. What we found when we were doing the gel electrophoresis for so long is that we weren't figuring out what all the proteins were. We were figuring out what all the proteins that went through gels were. So there are a lot of proteins that were present in small concentrations, and the types of dye that are commonly used for gel electrophoresis, they're not super sensitive to those low concentrations. You're not going to easily pick that up. C, allows a greater range of proteins to be analyzed. Like I just said, you're not looking at all the proteins, you're looking at the proteins that go through gels well. So, no, that's why we had these gel-free approaches. That's why, in part, they were developed. E, proteins are identified as part of the quantification. Well, what you see with gel electrophoresis is that it's good at telling you what things are. It's very much less good at telling you how much of a thing is in there. And that's what quantification is. How much of this protein do I have? The gel's not really going to tell you that, so you can't identify it as part of a quantification. It does tell you what the protein is, just not as a part of that, which gives us D. Intact proteins allow detections of changes in protein modification. Yeah, that's the advantage of in-gel electrophoresis. Lots of the gel-free approaches, you need to cleave the protein, you need to analyze it as peptides. With gel electrophoresis, you can just use whole proteins. So when that's the word you look at to kind of trigger, well, what's going to be the advantage of in gel versus gel free? Intact, because only the gel electrophoresis uses those intact proteins. All right. That's the answer to the question, and I hope that helped you at all.